Hearing none. Joe, let's go over April.
Okay, I think so. Everyone, should have the files I sent earlier this afternoon. We'll go through the financials fairly quickly. As far as the revenue side, we're in line. As far as the towns are generally paying well through this kind of challenging times of the towns are dealing with as far as collecting revenue themselves. Currently, Corona, we're a little behind schedule on their payments, but they tell me today the check is in the mail, so hopefully we'll get them caught up. But overall, as far as revenue is on track. As you go through the expenditure side, we're now 10 months through the fiscal year. A lot of the things, particularly Article 1, Article 2, as far as that are kind of year-round, like teachers and things like that, they're about 2/3 through their contract, since we pay them through July and August. So as far as those, you'd expect to be about 2/3 through. So as far as we look through regular instruction, that we're doing well with. As far as right now, as far as we're getting some savings with, obviously with the school closures, with not needing substitutes, some supplies, we're getting savings in supplies. On the payroll side, obviously we're continuing to pay the employees. Special ed, we're kind of seeing some savings there, and contracted services, as far as some of the services that are different now, as far as not as robust. So as far as we're seeing some savings and those lines. Career and technical services, that one will come out on budget. As far as other instruction, that one, as far as we still have a bucket to pay there, like kind of a lot of stipends and things for co-curriculars and things that will come at the end of the year. Student staff support, once again, that we're on track with. As far as we'll see some additional stipends, particularly for like the sick, for different committees and things on the educational front, will come out of those lines. System admin percentage looks light, but that's just because we have the huge bond payoff in that this year. School admin, Article 7, we're doing that one we're looking good as far as coming in under budget there. Transportation, this is an article that we were concerned about back at the kind of first half of the year. Obviously, with the change in the school remote learning, as far as this has kind of changed as well, as far as their fuel costs have kind of come in check, as far as their supplies are going to come in and check. So as far as their looks like that article is going to be under budget for the year now. Facility maintenance, we still expect that article to get probably fully expended before the end of the year. But as some of these spring projects get on the radar and get executed there, debt service will come in line. And the fund transfers, this is the kind of related to food service. Food service is kind of showing some great improvements here, as far as from where they were a few months back. As far as where we're concerned, I was concerned that they were going to consume their $80,000 subsidy plus potentially exceed that. With the reimbursement rates, with the summer meal programming, as far as the providing the meals, the number of meals that we're delivering, as far as it looks like, their position is improving greatly month by month. And so I'm kind of thinking by the end of the year, they'll probably be close to in line. If most, I think they may be more in the 20 to 30,000 maybe that they'll need. But as far as I'm hoping that they'll actually come out without the need of a subsidy. So we will keep monitoring them as we go through the next month or two. The overall, as far as kind of looking, as far as a district, how we're doing, I think we're, as far as just kind of trying to project out, it's a little tricky to do that. But as far as kind of looking at as we look at the full year, that the $340,000 that we normally put forward for fund balance into the budget, kind of projecting out that we aren't going to need that this year, that we'll be able to our expenses will come in line so that we won't consume that $340,000, and then I anticipate us seeing some additional savings beyond that too. But so I think we're in a pretty healthy financial position as we enter the last couple months of the fiscal year. Obviously, at the end of June, we'll have to do a big entry that will be accruing all the summer wages for teachers and their benefits and all that. But I think we can feel pretty good as far as about where we are at this point in time and where we'll be here at the end of June. But I'm not sure if anyone has any specific questions regarding financials at the end of April, but go ahead and ask away.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Just about let's see, which article was it? Article 3, you said it's going to come in at budget, but it looks like it's overspent.
Yeah, I think right now, as what's the encumbrances, I think there's a little off as far as because what we budgeted and what the tax center is going to charge. So it looks like we might have like an extra month encumbered in that line. That's all, but it'll come back and equal the budget when we're done.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Speaking of the TCTC, we used to negotiate a contract on what we pay. So now that is out of our hands as far as the majority of the amount that's paid that comes right from the state to them.
Yeah, and I know Mike may know the answer to this better, but as far as most of their funding comes directly from the state, and then as far as our local representatives that are on that board, as far as kind of meet and they agree to sometimes as far as what their funding needs exceeds what the state funding is, and then that's where kind of that additional piece that we're being asked for comes from. But that's I think voted at a tri-county board level that we have representatives on. So.
Yes, that funding goes straight through now, and then if they can't make that budget meet, then we go to the discussion like we're having right now to be above by $50,000 or $59,000, whatever it is. But that money now comes straight through to them, and then we work. Jason and I and the committee work to analyze programs and talk about what financing they need.
Any other questions for Joe on the April financials?
I guess just one follow-up to it's pretty remarkable the turnaround for dining services, but I'm just curious. It sounds like the reimbursement rates are exceeding the amounts that they're purchasing, even though they're now purchasing like already prepackaged cut vegetables and things like that, which are more expensive.
So yeah, as far as I think he is, as far as that's being managed well, as far as because I think in April, I believe the reimbursement, his expenses are, I think around 100 and looks like about 100 and I think it's around 115,000, and his reimbursement is going to be around 150,000 or something like that. So April's a pretty strong month for him.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe, so let's go on to the 2021 budget.
All right, so as far as everyone should got packets kind of an option 1, option 2, as far as to discuss. Option 1, we'll start there, and I'll just kind of talk to what's changed since the last time we met. And so there's towards the bottom of that sheet is a section called proposed adjustments for tonight. And as far as kind of we'll discuss what's changed since the last time we were here. One issue that kind of popped up as a kind of going through the budget and reviewing as we're going through the benefits piece of it, one thing that stuck out to me was the fact that when we originally had put in the healthcare costs in the budget, we had put in a 7% increase. So we adjusted last year's rate by 7% and pushed that into the budget. And then when we got the actual increase, which was around 3%, we modified it down to 3%. But there was a piece missed there as far as that on the support staff, their contract, the employer piece of that, they negotiated as far as an increase there. So as far as in this upcoming contract year, their employer's subsidized piece of that goes to 95%. So we hadn't captured that increase in employer liability over last year's percentage. And so we corrected that, but that was about almost a $23,000 additional expense to the budget, correcting that. And then we did get the final TCTC numbers, which increased. That's just under $4,000 increase to the budget. We did, as far as making an adjustment on the school resource officer position, as far as for the budget, as far as that's been reduced to that kind of ed tech level position. So that went from $60,000 down to $38,500 basically. So that was a reduction of $21,500. And then we reduced an additional $21,000 as far as there's the extended learning opportunity position at the high school that originally was going to be about a third in the local budget, but that's going to be able to be funded through the bar grant. So as far as that won't have to come out of district funds. So that was about $21,000 savings. And then we had a teacher notify us that they're changing lanes as far as that they're completing their master's program. So as far as the next year's budget, they're going to be moving to a master's level. So that was, we adjusted that, which was a little over $3,000 increase in wages there. So with all these changes, we didn't get a lot out of this. So we pretty much saved about another $13,000. So that reduces the budget by about $13,000. And once you plug that in, that brings the local increase, drops from the 2% to the 1.89%. And then, so if we flip through as far as the second page, it's kind of the breakout of those dollars, revenues, expense-wise, as we've kind of presented before. And the third page is the local assessment sheet. So that's kind of as far as based on the changes that we've kind of made from the last time we met to tonight. There's those specific items, but it had about a minimal impact on the budget. So dropped about 1/10 of a percentage. So that's kind of what this proposal is showing as far as just strictly that change in the impact on the local. So not sure if anyone has any questions about that option.
Joe, why don't you continue on to option 2 and then we'll look back both of them.
Okay. So option 2, it's the exact same items as we just discussed in the first option. And this option, we just kind of in here as far as we increase what we're putting forward in fund balance from the $340,000 that we've been putting forward to $450,000. So that's kind of pushing more money out of the fund balance to kind of offset local cost, and that kind of comes into kind of that was kind of puts you into a happy kind of I don't know a happy medium, but a medium spot there where kind of if we push that amount forward as far as kind of to get there, as far as that will bring the local increase to just under 1%, 0.96%. So as far as that was kind of the goal there, as far as we kind of looking at our fund balance and looking at things as far as it's just kind of the option to push a little bit more out of the fund balance to lower the local share of the budget. So not sure if we want to kind of talk any more about that idea and if where we.
So that zeroes out the fund balance?
Basically with that, no. As far as on that second option, if you look at the second page, there's a use of fund balance. So basically, after what we've committed so far this year and the 3%, we have about $951,000. This is pushing $450,000 to this budget. Plus, we're also pushing $70,000 for the software package. That leaves about $431,000 in fund balance, which could be used to increase our capital reserve funds, or to just kind of leave on hand for just as a cautionary measure because of potential state curtailments.
Is that over? Sorry, go ahead, Veronica. Sorry.
No, thank you. I just wanted to check, where do we normally keep that fund balance around? This is my first year, so this is all very new to me. I was just questioning where that typically hangs out around that balance.
So basically, we're allowed to carry basically a fund balance that's equal to about 3% of our prior year budget. So that's kind of what on that sheet, as far as the $859,000 is kind of roughly that 3%. And so all the amounts beyond that, we have a 3-year window to kind of designate that. We could put it into a capital reserve. We could put it for income, local tax relief. So as far as we have about a 3-year window to kind of spend that down. But as far as, and so that's kind of what we've been working on. Last year, we used those funds to pay off a bond early, and then we kind of we put $500,000 to a capital reserve fund. So as far as we've been kind of working to kind of designate those funds appropriately. But right, as far as that's so right now we still, like I said, if we do the 450 and the 70, we have about 430,000 left that we can decide as far as additionally to kind of decide whether we want to put that into reserve, or at this point for the upcoming year it might be safer just to kind of hold it just for potential state reductions.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Ryan, did you have a question?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So I just want to be clear that the 431.48 is in addition to the 3% that we are allowed to hold, correct?
That's correct.
So it's like we've taken that 3% and just we're not even talking about it.
Right. So basically,
okay, great.
Yeah, on that fund balance sheet, if you look, as you kind of go down, it kind of has what we started at the end of last year's audit, and then what we already committed, and then it has that 3%. And after we spend that 3%, we have about $951,000 left that we have to figure out what to do with. And in this proposal, we're using about $450,000 plus the $70,000 to kind of offset the local budget.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe.
So I'd kind of like to stay, I guess we could, it doesn't matter if we go option 2, option 1. Page 1 is the same on both. Is that correct, Joe?
Well, it is, other than the kind of the local cost sheet on the bottom. Obviously, that's a little different based on the option we take. But as far as the reductions in the map of how we got from point A to where we are tonight is the same.
So the proposed adjustments from 512.
Yep.
So we've got the health insurance adjustment. There's really nothing we can do about that. As a committee, we need to input that in. Are we all in agreement there? The updated funding from Tri-County, 3798. It's kind of set in stone. We know where that is. Discuss the ELO coordinator position with us a little bit, please.
So that is the extended learning opportunity position that was kind of created by the board last year. This year was 100% funded through the BARB grant. Theoretically, that was supposed to be moved to 1/3 covered by the district in year 2 of that grant, but we're going to be able to pay for that 100% through the BARB grant next year, as opposed to the district having to absorb 1/3 of that cost. And so that's the reduction that's shown here.
Is that a modification from the grantor?
I think that's something that they've agreed to allow to happen, is my understanding. Yes.
Okay. Okay, cool. And then does that mean the following year we're jumping from 100% to 2/3, or are we getting an extension on the entire timeline?
I think Mary and I and Mark Costain will have to look at the budget. Potentially, we could defer it a year, or we'll have to see how that goes.
Okay, thank you.
And then the teacher advancing degree, that's contractual.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got 5 items here. 4 of them basically, I think that we would all be in agreement to approve and send that forward. The 5th one is the SRO position. And Robin's committee met last week. Robin, do you want to discuss how that meeting went and how you came to this?
Well, we wanted to have a full-fledged SRO position that was funded partially by our district and partially by Newport PD for the middle school, high school complex. And then we were considering security person for Somerset, Sebastopol, and Etna-Dixmoor schools. Well, then after we made our decision and approached the budget committee with the figures, Newport voted on freezing their budget. So they did not have the funds available because those funds weren't in last year's budget. So we knew that we could not afford to pay for that position completely on RSU's dime. We had a conversation and decided that with Mary and Angela and Mike's suggestion that we needed to do something because the school is way too big for the administrators and those type of positions in the school. So we knew that we had to do something. And they thought that this type of position would be better than nothing, with the understanding that we really, next year, as long as the budget will hold it, would be suggesting a full-fledged SRO position. And this also gives us the opportunity to see how this position works, to find out if it's something that we're going to put down into the elementary schools, or whether it's something that just won't fly and we would vote to do that again next year. So therefore, there's quite a bit of difference in salary for a full-fledged SRO position or a security person. And so that's why we would like to have that position in the budget to not only help with the issues at hand, but also to see what this looks like for future.
So Mike and Mary, do you want to add anything to what Robin has stated on this?
I think she captured it perfectly.
Thank you, Mary.
Mike, I know you left. I didn't know if you wanted to add any comments to this SRO position.
Yeah, I just got closer to my internet. I agree with them. Robin was right on. Something's better than nothing. There's a couple people who wanted to vote to put the full SRO in. We understand that. That would be great. However, I think trying this position out and having an extra set of eyes and ears and hands is a good idea.
So with that, we have not completed our work. We will still be involved in more and coming up with different things that, educational piece and whatever. So we will still keep track of this and we will still meet occasionally. And we'll definitely find out as the year goes by if this position is something that is worthwhile.
would their benefit package? Would they have a benefit package if we had a security officer?
Mike?
Yeah, Ken, that would depend on the person. I think we put in the highest package that we would offer in Ed Tech 3. You never know if it's a retired person who had some type of background that didn't need it, or they were single, or whatever it is. But they would have the basic insurance that an Ed Tech would have.
Thank you.
So I think we need to vote on this as a committee, but I know that this, and Robin's done a really good job of defending the position as an ed, at the ed tech level. There was a couple of things that I sat in on that meeting, excuse me, and there was a couple of things that came out of it that I kind of wanted to bring up. The fact that, and Mike, correct me on this, Mary, you can too, is who would be the ultimate person for this job? It was mentioned to the fact that maybe we could, instead of doing an ed tech, are we looking at maybe a retired police officer that may be able to go into this? That may change some things. Probably from a budget perspective, may change it to the better. The other thing was the fact that some people were talking about, this is just an ed tech position, and basically instead of it being a security resource officer, it's more of the fact they're going to be going around the building, making sure the kids are behaving, watching the grounds, because the building is so big that they need another set of eyes to be able to watch the kids when they're in the hallways, roaming there's a little bit of a negative aspect to this. I kind of like to bring it up and at least get it out here so that people are aware of this before we vote on it. If anyone would like to talk about that.
I guess I'm curious to find out what negative aspect you came out.
Well, I'm not, maybe negative isn't the right term, but it seems like we're all positive about this position, and I know that there was some people that were not in favor of the position because it was getting downgraded to the ed tech level, and those were the points that were brought up in that meeting. I didn't know if we wanted to touch on that really quick.
I'd like to speak to that.
Go right ahead.
I appreciate the opportunity, Bill, as someone who was not in favor of the position, but I'd also just like to stick, for me personally, I'll stick to under parliamentary procedure, that was the vote that came out of the committee, and so I'm going to support it. At this point, from a budgetary standpoint, I'm only looking at this from a can we afford it point of view. I think the committee has voted and supports this proposal, so I think that the budget committee should just look at it from a strictly funding perspective. Thank you.
Robin, is this going to be just for the position we're going to put in the middle school, high school, or is this position we're going to be putting in all the schools?
Right now, it's going to be middle school, high school for this next year because we only have enough funding for one position. And that gives us the idea of whether this would fly in elementary schools or not. We know that we want to have a full-fledged security person, such as an SRO, a police officer, in the high school because of the age of the students and the activities that they can get involved with. We need somebody that has a definite law enforcement background and is currently in a position such as that. But we also know that it would be lovely if we could hire 4 people to do the SRO position in each one of the schools, but we know that we can't. at least now, unless some financial windfall comes our way. But it does give us the idea to find out how successful a person in that position that is not an SRO would be, because we are looking very strongly in having those in all of our school buildings. And so what better way to fund a position that is much less than what an SRO would be, that would be totally under Mary and Angela and Mike's sanction, what they will be involved in. And it may not be successful, and if it isn't, then we wouldn't continue with that type of position. But it does let us know whether it's going to be successful or not.
But that being said, what's the other parents going to say that these kids that go to school like over that in the Dexmont and over Somerset, what's their outlook going to be on it? You know what I mean? We're going to get backlash from these other parents.
That could very well be, and we weren't, we wanted to fund something for each one of the schools because we felt that all kids were important. But it's just something that we just, we figured that we could not fund completely this year.
I would also add that we had input from law enforcement officers from several different branches of law enforcement that advised us that the place where it was most likely to be needed was the middle high school.
Yeah, I understand that, Brian, but we're still you got parents that's out there. You know what I mean? They got kids in school. You know what I'm saying? That's all the thing I'm saying.
We most certainly, we heard them loud and clear, and this is not the end all and be all. We want something much more than we have right now, but this is like the first step. And my committee has not given up on, just doing this and that's it. And we have instructed Mike that when he goes and interviews for this type of position, that we expect that this person will have some sort of law enforcement background.
Go ahead.
What's their title going to be? Are we still going to call them school resource officer? What's the title?
We spoke about what we thought it should be, and it was security. Was it a security tech?
It's like a security officer, security monitor. We're gonna try to stay away
Security
from
monitor.
Stay away from the ed tech, but definitely have security in the title.
Yeah, I think it was security monitor.
Thanks.
So the way that I kind of like to handle this from just so that we can dot the I's, cross the T's.
I think of these 5 proposed adjustments that we have on here. I think 1, 2, 4, and 5. I just want to go around and have everybody vote. I think those 4 basically we are kind of within contractual in the contractual lane. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to do those 4, go around and get a vote on that, and then we'll come back to the security monitor position, or the drop to the security monitor position. So I'm just going to go around and just take a really quick poll of everybody. So items 1, 2, 4, and 5. Leland?
Yay.
Robin?
Yes.
Karina?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Mark?
Yep.
Veronica?
Yes.
And that is unanimous. And then on the SRO being reduced to a security monitor position, Leland?
Yay.
Robin?
Yes.
Karina?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Mark?
Yep.
Veronica?
Yes.
And that's unanimous. Okay. So that's where
My committee thanks you.
You're welcome. So that's where we sit. The only thing that we have left to talk about really is the difference between option 1 and option 2. And that sits on page 2, and that is the increase in the fund balance. And that is going to bring our increase from a 1 point, I got to flip these back and forth. Come on, computer. You would think I'd be able to walk these things around a little bit easier than this. So right now we are looking at an increase, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, of 1.89%.
Yeah, that would be the option 1.
As a budget as a whole. And then budget 2, which is going to be an increase of 110,133.73 of the fund balance going in, which is going to drop our percentage from 1.89 to 0.96.
That's correct.
I have some comments that I'd like to make, but I will leave it to anyone who'd like to make some comments at this time. But if they're in favor of it or not in favor of it.
Can I just ask?
Veronica, I'll let you go first since you're the newbie.
Apologies, and thank you, Robin. So I guess where we voted last time to ask for a 2% increase, my assumption would be that we would start by asking for the 1.96 increase from the towns, and then if that was rejected, would we then go to option the 0.96 increase option?
That is an option. I mean, so yes, we can do that. Robin, you wanted to say something?
I did, and it has to do with some similar to the conversation that I had a week or two ago, and that is that when I was the budget chairman many moons ago, for about 9 years, we kept a flat funded budget because we wanted to, help the taxpayers out and what have you. And the towns did not follow suit. So their side of the budget, theirs increased substantially where ours was flat. And we didn't help education at all. And so I think it's wonderful that you're thinking, or someone's thinking about putting $450,000 towards the taxpayers' relief. But we also have to think about education, and we can't go under. We have to keep going forward. So I'm not sure I am in agreement. I don't get me wrong, I think we should put some towards it, but I don't think $450,000.
Anyone else? Well, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, and on one side, I agree with Robin very, very strongly. I know that we've had some troubles with finances in the past. In this case, the advantage is we're not really stinting education in this case. We're still getting the same amount of money. It's just what pool we're pulling it out of. And this year, I wonder, the property taxes aren't going to change, but the sales and revenue taxes certainly are. And I'm really, really waiting for that other shoe to drop from the state saying, oh, by the way, we're not giving you that extra $1 million. We're going to expect you to pull that out of your property taxes. And, as with many years, that's not going to make any of us look good or feel good about it. And I think if we start from a lower number, we might cushion that blow a little bit.
Well, I hear what you say, Chris, on that, on the other shoe. The thing, I kind of want to stay at the 1.89%, for a couple of reasons. One, it gives us, I think 1.89 is very reasonable. I don't think that we're shirking on the education part of it. I'm sure that we could enhance. And I think we need to wait to enhance education another year just because of what's going on out in the world right now. I would like to keep the fund balance number the same as last year, the 339,867, and that gives us the ability to, in case that shoe does drop that Chris was talking about, at that point in time, we will have some money in the fund balance that we can contribute so that it all doesn't come out of property taxes. I think there's so many unknowns right now. We don't know if the federal government's going to come in and fund the states, how they're going to do it, and what kind of. I've heard all kinds of different things out there, but obviously, we have no idea what's going to happen. I kind of want to keep a fund balance going. I don't want to drain it now. I'd kind of like to keep it in there so that if that shoe does drop and we only get, for example, federal government comes in and says they're only going to fund us our reimbursement, in a reimbursement basis. They only fund us for the cost that we've incurred for the COVID, and they don't take into account the loss in revenue. The state's going to have to find that loss in revenue somewhere else, and they're going to come back to us. And that's when I think we have the fund balance in there, and then we can allocate that fund balance in so that we're not hitting the towns with as much of an increase that we have to keep the education at the level that we want it to be. I'm in favor of option one. It also gives us a little bit of a buffer in case, God forbid, the budget does not pass. Then we can go back and take a look and start hitting that fund balance a little bit and try not to deteriorate the level of education that we're trying to give our kids. So that's what I wanted to put out there. Any other comments from committee members?
Yeah, I would just remind everyone that I don't think there's any sort of buffer here. We've already gone back and reduced, and by we I mean the administrative team has gone back and reduced below what they actually need to run the schools. I mean, we're talking about not hiring a teacher we need. We're talking about not putting the ed techs for security in the elementary schools. We're talking about reducing an SRO. So there's no buffer. I think the point you're making, which I agree with, is that the buffer, such as it is, would come from the fund balance. But I just want to be clear that I'm in favor of the 1.89% and maintaining the taxpayer relief at the level it's been at for the last two budget cycles, at the 339 or whatever it is. But there's no flexibility in terms of reducing anything else without further impacting education. So that's just the point that I would like to make. Thank you.
Leland, Mark, comments?
I agree with you, Bill. Option one.
Trina, we haven't heard from you.
I'm in agreement with option one, as this, hopefully we don't have to go to a second round of voting, but we would have something to go very quickly and easily to go back to if we had a round two of budget voting. But I'm in favor of option one.
Bill, the way I've been analyzing the two charts is this way.
going to be probably totally different than anybody else, but I am what I am. You talk about a 1.89%, but if you look at, making it under a 2%, around 2%, if you look by town, some towns are already getting hit with a 6% increase. You have others that are getting a 3%, 2%, 2%. By going to option 2, it brings everybody except for one town down to around 2%.
And I understand that, Leland, I really do. I wish we had, when we get to that point in time, we have no control over that. That's all based on property values and everything of that nature. So, I think, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, Dixmont got hit by a reevaluation that they did 2 years ago. So this is the middle year of that it counts. And this year it's a 4.7% increase in our valuation relative to the percentage of the rest of the district. So that's all based on property value for us.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I see the numbers. I know exactly about that. But as a board of education, we have there's nothing we can really do about that. That's basically.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is that with this COVID-19 and the like you're even talking about the income coming into the towns, what are we going to do then next year? We're going to get hit hard unless they can keep it down to a moderate increase instead of a 2%. Remember, I will stick out. I try to get as close to zero as, like I said before, as possible. And we've already done that by cutting back on everything else in the programs.
So if anyone else has anyone kind of want to do another poll again as to whether or not we want to go option 1, which is the 1.89, or option 2, which is the 0.96. So Leland?
2.
Robin?
1.
Karina?
Option 1.
Ryan?
Option 1.
Mark?
Option 1.
Veronica?
Option 1.
And I'm option 1. So, Joe, what else do we need to do to the budget before we present it to the board?
No, that's what we need to accomplish this evening, is to come up with what that option and presentation is going to look like. Basically, from here, I got to turn this information to the attorneys tomorrow so that they can create the warrants for next Tuesday's board meeting.
Okay. Mike, do you want to go over how we are going to handle next week's board meeting?
Sure. We're going to try to do it both ways. We want to go with under 10 people at the school, so that those people that are available to get those votes to sign the 2 copies for every town will be able to do so. I'll be there with Evelyn to organize that material. Everybody else can Zoom in, and we'll be open from 9 to 2 or 8 to 12 at the office the next day. People need to come in and sign those copies. We'll have gloves and masks and all the stuff that you need. And I believe Evelyn sent out those directions to you today in an email.
I didn't see a time, but you're only going to be open until 2 o'clock?
She wanted to condense that. We'll figure out what that is, but she wanted to condense those times.
Okay, so I won't be there. I have to wait until
later on. and we'll make it till up to like 4, but we need a certain amount of time. We can't drag it out too long.
Mike, one thing that I noticed, if we're gonna, let's say we put 8 people in the gymnasium and we're each gonna Zoom in on our own machines, I would suggest that everybody bring headsets, or there's gonna be some major sound issues with everybody's, you know, I know it's like Leland's got headphones, and, you know, I think if they're coming to the school and they're gonna Zoom all in one room, everyone should have headphones on. Might be something that you may wanna think about.
Yeah, I'll talk about the setup with Josh now that we know kind of what we're going to do.
I don't know if you, I know you got my email, Mike, and I sent to Evelyn that if I can come in on that evening, I'd like to, because I won't be able to come in to sign warrants until that Friday, if at the earliest.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Leland. We're trying to accommodate both sets of people. You were going to be one, Karina, Bill, and like I said, a couple other people. Robin, that works out for you since you can't sign during the day. Maybe a couple more people could come in, and then we can set up slots or appointments on Wednesday. We'll try to do the best we can with this, but we're trying to do both.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll be at Nokomis because I will not be able to go to the central office the next day to sign them, so I'll be at Nokomis. So anybody else have anything that they would like to bring up before we adjourn? I don't think we have anything else we really need to go over, do we, Joe?
No, that's so.
Robin, go ahead.
Has anybody figured out what the regional meeting is gonna look like?
Yes. We sent a letter to the commissioner today, and maybe to the governor, stating that we can have up to 50 people in a room, papers laid out 7 days ahead of time. I'll send that out to all the people that we have guidelines that we're trying to follow, 6 feet apart, no more than 50 people in a room. Papers are already prepared, ability to ask questions and interact, and then minimize the paper ballots to the one that we have to do for the above EPS. Bill will still moderate and be able to go to the rooms. We'll probably have all the ballot clerks start out in the cafeteria in that room and then go out to the other rooms so that it can be done as safe as possible.
Basically, we've got the plan sketched out, but we haven't gotten any guidance back from the state as to whether the plan is acceptable.
And I'm sure every district is going at them with the same questions.
But no provision was made for us to do a district budget meeting by virtual. And given that you have to have a paper ballot, I don't see how you could.
No, but you might have to wait until August when they're supposed to release the 50, under 50 to more than 50.
I hope not, but yeah.
I didn't say I thought it was a good idea.
But you may be right. That may be what they'll tell us we have to do.
When do you expect to hear anything about that, Mike? A couple of weeks, a month? Any guidance from anyone?
Go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead.
So the Secretary of State's office already told us they didn't have any guidance to offer us. We haven't heard back from the commissioner yet, and I'm holding off on the commissioner before I make a request to the pandemic response team from the governor's office.
Okay. All right. Good enough.
All right. Good night, all.
I think we're all set. Good night, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.